Welcome to the Book Review Podcast. Let's dive in. We're looking at some really interesting source material today, all focused on financial success. But, well, maybe from an angle you haven't quite considered before.
That's right. We've got excerpts from a specific book, plus your notes and images, and it really throws down a challenge to the standard get rich slow advice. It offers a very different alternative.
Yeah, and that's the core tension, isn't it? The usual advice work for decades, save diligently, versus this much faster route the author calls the Fastlane.
Exactly. So our mission here is to really dig into the author's viewpoint, understand these different financial roadmaps, as he calls them, and pull out the key principles he argues are, well, essential for building wealth much, much quicker.
And the author kicks things off with a personal story, doesn't he? Seems like the real starting point for this whole philosophy.
Yes, it's a very vivid memory from his teenage years seeing a Lamborghini Countach.
And it wasn't just about, liking the car. It triggered something more profound, this Lamborghini prophecy idea.
Right, this sort of lightning bolt realization that wealth shouldn't have to take 50 years of grinding away, that maybe there was another path.
Which is interesting because his own early life, well, it didn't look like a fast track at all, did it?
Not remotely. He talks about having business degrees, but still really struggling, living at home, doing some pretty soul-crushing odd jobs.
Like that story about driving a limo in a blizzard? Sounds awful.
It really does. And he mentions his mom always saying, get a job, baby.
Yeah.
That constant pressure.
Huh. But instead of just giving in, it sounds like that actually kind of fueled his determination, like a rebellion against just settling for financial mediocrity.
It's fascinating, isn't it? How that specific miserable limo drive turned out to be so important. He wasn't just enduring it. He was like observing. And he spotted a problem realizing how hard it was to find limo services in other places.
Ah, okay. So the frustration actually sparked his first business idea.
Precisely. And that's such a stark contrast to where that initial observation eventually led him.
Totally. Because the material mentions him making his first million by 31, retiring at 37, living off passive income. I mean, that timeline just blows the conventional wisdom out of the water.
And he's really blunt in his critique of that conventional wisdom, that traditional get-rich-slow roadmap.
You know, the one we all hear? Get the stable job, work 40 or 50 years, save like 10%.
Uh-huh. And just hope and pray the stock market cooperates over all those decades. His assessment, and this is a direct quote from the source, is pretty brutal.
What's he say?
He says flat out, if your road to wealth consumes your most active years and isn't even guaranteed, that road sucks.
Wow. Okay. That really lands. And he makes a strong point about when your golden years ought to be.
Definitely. His argument is they should be when you're young and healthy and energetic, not potentially frail and worn out decades later when you might not even be able to enjoy the freedom.
That image you shared visualizes it too, the road kind of fading into the distance.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder that time, well, time is the one asset you can't get back. It's constantly slipping away.
So to structure this, the source material lays out three very distinct financial roadmaps people tend to follow.
Right. You've got the sidewalk, the slow lane, and the fast lane. And his key argument is that the map you end up on isn't accidental. It's defined by your fundamental beliefs about money and wealth.
And those beliefs shape your personal wealth equation. Like that image of the money puzzle pieces making up your road, how you put them together dictates where you end up.
Exactly. How you assemble those pieces, that's everything.
Okay, let's start with the first one he outlines, the sidewalk. What defines that path?
The sidewalk, according to the sources, is all about the immediate short term. Living completely for right now.
Okay, so paycheck to paycheck, basically. Driven by instant gratification.
Precisely. Often using debt, credit cards, loans, to fund that immediate lifestyle or purchase.
And the symptoms he lists, they sound painfully familiar for a lot of people, probably.
Oh, for sure. It's that pattern of constantly blaming external events when things go wrong financially.
Yeah, like, oh, the company laid me off, or my transmission blew, and suddenly it's a total catastrophe, that mindset.
Exactly. The author argues that if you're on the sidewalk, you're basically taking out a mortgage on your future happiness just to have a comfortable or maybe just a manageable present.
Which sounds incredibly risky. Like any unexpected problem, job loss, illness, recession could just wipe you out.
Completely. There's absolutely no safety net, no system for bouncing back. And the source is very pointed here, hoping for government help, Social Security, or, waiting for Aunt Mildred's inheritance. That is not a financial plan. It's just leaving things to chance.
It really underscores the fragility. And the source makes a really important distinction here between just having stuff and having what the author calls true wealth.
Yeah, this is fundamental to the whole Fastlane philosophy. True wealth, he argues. It's not just about the number in your bank account or the car in your driveway.
The quote you pulled is really powerful.
It is. Wealth is strong-spirited familial relationships with people. Wealth is making a difference, impacting the lives of others.
Okay, that connection he makes to It's a Wonderful Life, it clicks now. It's about the richness of your actual life, not just the spreadsheet.
Exactly. And that story about selling his first company, it's almost a painfully perfect illustration of the difference between looking rich and actually being financially free.
Oh, right. The one where he gets this big check for like $250,000 and his first thought is all the flashy stuff he can buy, and then he loses half of it almost immediately.
That's the one.
Yeah.
It's such a raw example of what he calls wealth impersonation, just having money to burn versus actual wealth, which is the freedom and security the money provides when you manage it right.
Right. He contrasts financing an $80,000 Mercedes over 6 years where you're totally tied to those payments versus just having the freedom to walk in and buy his brother a Lexus with cash, no strings attached.
One looks rich, the other is free. That distinction is absolutely critical.
Okay, so that covers the life for today path, the sidewalk. What about the one most of us are taught? The conventional route, the slow lane.
Right, the slow lane. This is presented as, definitely better than the sidewalk. It's the widely accepted, almost default path to financial security.
Get a good job, save a percentage, put money into your 401k or IRA consistently.
Exactly. It's the standard advice you hear everywhere, often from well-known financial gurus. The material even mentions figures like Suze Orman or Dave Ramsey as typical slow lane proponents. And those images you included show that long, slow, steady climb.
But the source levels some pretty harsh criticisms against this approach, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Fundamentally, the biggest issue is right there in the name. It's get rich slow. It demands decades, 40, 50 years, and even then, success is only potential. It's not guaranteed.
Potential is the key word there. It's totally dependent on things outside your control, like Wall Street's performance, and it's fundamentally anchored to the passage of time.
That S&P 500 example really drives it home. Investing $1,000 in 1940 to become a millionaire by 2011. If you started that at age 20, how old would you be when you hit $1 million?
Let's see. You'd be 91, and if you started later, say at 40, you'd be 71. That's a long wait.
Exactly. You have to live that long, first of all. And the math behind a typical job in this model is the core problem he identifies.
Because your income, your financial value, is directly tied to your time.
Precisely. It's either your hourly wage times the hours you work, or it's a fixed salary. The author insists you just can't leverage or control your time effectively in that structure. As the source puts it pretty bluntly, small numbers do not make millionaires.
So even getting, say, a 5% raise or a new certification, that doesn't fundamentally alter the equation.
Not from this perspective, no. Like that example of the friend getting PMP certified. Sure, it might boost your hourly rate, your intrinsic value a bit, but you're still just trading hours for dollars. There's a hard physical limit to how much time you have. That's not the path to rapid wealth creation.
And the source really emphasizes the major risks involved in planning your whole life around this decades-long strategy, like your health.
Right. Are you even going to be healthy enough at 65 or 70 to enjoy that supposed retirement? There's no guarantee.
And job security, too. What if you get laid off 15 years before your target retirement date? The whole plan can feel incredibly fragile, dependent on things you just can't control.
It really can.
Yeah.
And this is where the author throws a bit of a curveball, maybe even gets a little controversial, regarding those same slow lane gurus.
Yes. He asks that really pointed question. Did people like Suze Orman or Robert Kiyosaki, both mentioned in the material, did they actually get rich by meticulously following their own advice? Clipping coupons, investing solely in index funds, maxing out retirement accounts.
Or did they get rich by building huge, scalable businesses selling that advice through books, TV shows, seminars, creating massive personal brands?
He calls it the paradox of practice.
That's the term. The suggestion is that while they're teaching a slow, steady path dependent on the market, they themselves might have used a fast lane strategy, building a scalable business around information to achieve their wealth much faster.
Wow. That's a really interesting thought. That the way they deliver the advice might be the real wealth engine, not the advice itself.
It definitely makes you think differently about the business models behind a lot of mainstream financial advice, doesn't it?
The source also touches on how our perception of wealth itself has shifted, noting that being a millionaire next door having a $1 million net worth. Well, today that often just signifies being upper middle class.
Right. Not necessarily true financial freedom or the ability to live completely independently. The author actually argues that $5 million is kind of the new $1 million if you're talking about genuine financial independence and what he considers real wealth. The goalposts have moved.
Which leads us directly to the main alternative presented, the Fastlane.
Exactly, the Fastlane. This is positioned as the conscious, intentional roadmap designed specifically to create significant wealth rapidly, ideally while you're still young and energetic enough to make the most of it.
The source uses that raffle analogy, which is pretty helpful.
Yeah. The slow lane is like entering a raffle that takes decades to draw, with pretty long odds for a prize you get way down the road. The fast lane, well, it offers better odds for potentially much earlier payouts, maybe with more significant effort or risk upfront.
So how is the fast lane actually defined? What's its core?
It's defined as a deliberate commitment. It's a specific combination of beliefs, processes, and actions. And the crucial part is it's aimed explicitly at creating wealth quickly, targeting a level of financial freedom way beyond just being comfortably middle class.
And the author's own story selling his company for $32 million in just 4 years. That's presented as the prime example, right? The proof of concept.
It's definitely the main case study.
Yeah.
But he's very, very clear it wasn't easy. It wasn't luck. It involved incredibly intense work.
Like 12 to 16-hour days, 6 days a week during that building phase.
Absolutely. And real sacrifices, cutting expenses like cable, giving up hobbies temporarily. It underscores the level of commitment and focused effort needed to build these kinds of systems quickly.
A really fundamental starting point seems to be this mental shift from just being a consumer to becoming a producer.
This is huge. The author says you have to fundamentally change how you look at the world around you.
How so?
Well, instead of just seeing an ad and thinking, do I want to buy that? Or using a service and thinking, was that good? You flip the script. You start asking, okay, how is this company making money? What underlying problem are they solving? You become a student of business models everywhere, all the time.
And tied into that producer mindset is this core principle the author calls the law of affection.
Yes, this is absolute central. The core idea is you want to make millions of dollars, you have to somehow impact the lives of millions of people.
Okay, impact millions. How does that work? Through scale or magnitude?
Exactly. Impact can come through scale reaching a vast number of people, even if the value per person is small, or through magnitude providing immense value to a smaller group. The quote sums it up. To serve millions is to make millions.
So your income becomes a direct reflection of the scale and magnitude of the problems you're solving or the value you're providing.
Precisely. That's the fast lane wealth equation. It's completely different from the slow lane, where your income is just tied to the clock.
And speaking of time, how does the fast lane view time differently?
It's a 180-degree flip. In the slow lane, time is basically your inventory, you sell it for money, and you're limited by it. In the fast lane, time is your single most valuable asset. The entire goal is to decouple your income from your hours worked, so you can leverage time for growth and freedom, not be trapped by it.
And that decoupling happens by building these things the author calls money trees, right? These fast lane business systems that generate passive income.
That's the engine. These systems are the heart of the fast lane. He lists several types in the sources. Rental systems, think real estate. He calls that Wealth 1.0. Computer software systems, super scalable. You can replicate them almost infinitely at near zero cost. Content systems like books, blogs, courses.
Like the very book we're discussing.
Exactly. Distribution systems leveraging existing networks like wholesale or affiliate marketing. And human resource systems managing employees to run things, although he notes this is often the least passive.
He uses some really vivid imagery, like real estate sending you checks even if you're on the moon.
Right, or software copied millions of times instantly. Or the book itself earning money long after the writing stopped.
And he mentions the power of newer hybrid models, combining computer systems and content.
Yeah, things like popular blogs running ads or selling digital products or apps delivering valuable information. That blend is incredibly potent today for achieving scale fast.
And that's the source of the passive income that let him retire so young.
That's it. He lays it out. I'm lender, and when you have a lot of money to lend, you live free. He gives that example of lending, say, $10 million at a pretty conservative 5.8% interest. That's generating $41,000 to over $66,000 a month passively.
Wow, without even touching the original $10 million.
Exactly. That's the kind of financial freedom that comes from building these fast lane systems that work for you, completely separating income from your active time.
Now, beyond the system itself, the source really stresses the importance of controlling the actual business entity for liability, taxes, things like that.
Oh, absolutely critical. He strongly pushes for using proper legal structures like C Corp, S Corp, or LLCs. And he explicitly warns against just operating as a sole proprietor or a general partnership, because the personal risk is huge.
Right, like that plumber example, if a pipe bursts and floods a house, operating as a sole prop means your house, your savings are potentially on the line.
It's a perfect illustration of the danger. You have to control the structure. Like the source says, he who owns the keys owns the power. You need to be the one holding those keys.
And there's a clear line drawn between being a producer, a fastlaner, and what he calls a hitchhiker.
Yeah, this often comes up when discussing things like multi-level marketing, MLMs. The source uses that classic gold rush analogy. In a gold rush, don't dig for gold, sell shovels.
I see where this is going.
The fastlaner isn't the person joining the MLM hoping to sell products under someone else. The fastlaner is the person who created the entire MLM system, the one selling the shovels, the opportunity, the structure itself. The others are described more like soldiers, essentially hitchhiking on the system the fastlaner built and controls.
Which connects to another warning sign he points out that everyone is doing it feeling.
Yes. When some investment or business trend hits the mainstream news, and suddenly everyone and their cousin is jumping in, think back to the dot-com frenzy or the housing peak before 2008.
Red flag time.
For the savvy fastlaner, yes. That's usually a sign that the market might be topping out, that the easy money or the core opportunity is probably gone. It might be time to look elsewhere for the next unmet need, the next problem that isn't being adequately solved yet.
Okay, so if someone wants to actually build one of these fastlane businesses, how do they do it right? The source gives 5 core principles, almost like commandments.
Exactly, the 5 fastlane commandments: need, time, scale, control, and entry.
Let's start with need. You said earlier that sounds like maybe the most important one.
Arguably, yes. It's the foundation. The core message is, stop chasing money for its own sake.
Okay, Chase, what then?
Chase needs. Solve problems. Money, the author argues, isn't attracted to people who just want money. It's attracted to businesses that deliver real value. Your business must solve a genuine problem, fill an existing need, or alleviate a pain point for people.
So it can't just be about your personal passion project or something you think is cool if nobody else actually needs or wants it.
That's a tough pill for some people to swallow. That martial arts studio example illustrates it well. The owner might have loved martial arts, but if the business wasn't solving a significant market need in a scalable way, it wasn't really a fast-lane business.
Right. Passion isn't enough.
The quote nails it. Money isn't attracted to selfish people. It is attracted to businesses that solve problems.
Yeah.
Uses that great analogy about attracting money like trying to attract a cat.
A cat? How does that work?
Well, you don't chase the cat around shouting its name, right?
Yeah.
That just scares it off. You figure out what the cat wants: food, a warm spot, a dangling string, and you provide that. Money, in this view, is attracted to solutions and value. When you sell millions of something, that's millions of people essentially saying, yes, this helped me. They're voting with their wallets.
Okay, the cat analogy really clarifies that. Now, the commandment of time seems to loop back to that decoupling idea we already discussed.
It does. It just reinforces that the business must be structured to operate and generate income largely independent of your direct hour-by-hour involvement. Build it once, let the system run.
Got it. And scale.
That connects directly to the law of affection. To make millions, you need to impact millions. So your business needs the potential for massive reach, that scale, or it needs to generate very high profit per transaction, that's magnitude.
A coffee shop example fits perfectly here.
Right. A single local coffee shop. Limited scale, very low magnitude per sale. To make that fast lane, you need immense scale, like Starbucks level franchising.
But the fastlaner is the one creating the franchise system, selling the shovels again, not just running one shop.
Exactly. Or you'd somehow have to find a way to dramatically increase the magnitude, the value per cup, which is really hard with coffee. It also shows how even a high-magnitude employee, like a top surgeon, generates wealth that flows up to the owners who control the overall system, the hospital, the practice, which leads right into the commandment of control.
You have to be in the driver's seat. Controlling the key levers. Policies, product, pricing, marketing, operations. The works.
The franchise example works again. They buy into a system, but they give up significant control to the franchisor.
Right. They don't own the keys to the whole operation, and the source repeats. He who owns the keys owns the power. You want to be the owner of the keys.
And the last commandment, entry. What's the deal with entry? Ideally, it shouldn't be ridiculously easy for just anyone to start the exact same business tomorrow with minimal effort or investment. If the barrier to entry is super low, competition tends to be fierce, making it harder to build a durable, profitable, fast-lane business.
But what if the barrier is low? Does that mean it's impossible?
Not necessarily. The author makes a key point. If entry is easy, but you are exceptional, if your execution, your service, your product quality is just miles ahead of everyone else, then that easy entry can actually work to your advantage. You could potentially dominate through sheer excellence. That MLM example comes back again here, doesn't it? Perfectly. For the people joining, entry's easy. Sign up, maybe buy a starter kit. But for the person who created the entire MLM structure, the compensation plan, the products, the system, the barrier to entry for that role is incredibly high. They're selling the shovels. It's clear that building this isn't just about the business model. It's also heavily about mindset and execution. The source talks about passion, but with a specific twist. Yeah, it's not necessarily about being passionate about the day-to-day grind, the how of building the business. You might hate cold calling or dealing with spreadsheets. Okay, so what drives you then? It's passion for the end result, the vision, the why behind it all, like the author's own passion for that Lamborghini vision, that symbol of freedom. That's the fuel that gets you through the tasks you don't love, like him driving that limo in the snow. That passion for the ultimate goal, the why, is what really powers Fastlane success.
The material also covers some really critical execution concepts needed to actually pull this off. Continuous learning is a big one. School is just the beginning.
Absolutely non-negotiable. Formal education is just a starting point. Self-education is vital. Constantly reading, learning online, finding mentors. Information is the oil on your financial journey, as the source puts it. He even suggests these practical life university tactics.
Life University, what's that about?
It's about using downtime productively. Like driving university. Listen to audiobooks or podcasts during your commute. Or gym university, waiting in line university. Basically, turning dead time into learning time. That's a smart way to reframe things. Another concept is willingness and sacrifice. This path definitely isn't painted as easy.
No, not at all. Building a fast-lane business demands a willingness to make real sacrifices, especially early on. Often, that means consciously choosing to live way below your means, making choices that look weird to the people around you.
Like eating ramen noodles while your friends are dining out?
Exactly. Or driving a beat-up but reliable car instead of getting a loan for something flashy. It's about delaying gratification significantly. The quote that sums it up is powerful. The idea of living in the rat race for 50 years has to be more painful than the idea of working your ass off to escape it.
So the potential pain of staying mediocre needs to outweigh the immediate discomfort of sacrifice. That's the motivation.
And failure. Failure seems expected on this path.
Oh, completely. The source doesn't treat failure like the end of the world. It's presented as a normal, even necessary part of the process.
How does it frame it? Like, what's the perspective?
It's framed as building experience points, gaining wisdom. Failure doesn't become the badge of victimhood. It becomes wisdom. You learn what didn't work, you adjust, you pivot, you keep moving. Failure is just data.
And they make a clear distinction between intelligent risks and, well, moronic risks.
Yes, calculated moves versus just reckless gambling. An intelligent risk might be quitting your job to pursue a well-researched, planned business where you've maybe even tested the market a bit.
What's the downside versus upside there?
The downside is limited, relatively. You might burn through savings, you might have to get another job if it fails completely, but the potential upside is massive wealth and freedom.
And the moronic risks.
Those are things with potentially catastrophic downsides and often limited upsides, like betting your life savings on a penny stock you know nothing about, or driving without insurance. The author's take is clear. It is easier to live in regret of failure than in a regret of never trying. But try intelligently. Don't just leap blindly.
Handling headwinds is another execution point. What does that mean?
Headwinds are the negative forces slowing you down. Could be a terrible job, sure, but often it's negative people in your life, friends, family who constantly doubt you, criticize your ambition, or just drain your energy.
So you need to actively manage your social environment.
Definitely. Curate your circle. Spend time with people who lift you up, who understand or at least support your goals. The source says people are like roads. They can either bring opportunity or distress into your life. Negative, draining relationships are seen as major roadblocks.
Okay. And eliminating parasitic debt is highlighted as extremely important.
Hugely important. Parasitic debt is borrowing money for things that go down in value.
Yeah.
or just provide fleeting pleasure. Fancy cars you can't really afford, consumer electronics, vacations on credit cards charging 20% interest.
Why parasitic?
Because it literally sucks the life out of your future. It steals your future time, forcing you to work just to pay off the past. The author calls it indentured time. You're essentially working for the bank, not for yourself.
The law of chocolate chip cookies applies here too, right? Resist that immediate gratification urge.
Exactly. Control the impulse buying that leads to this kind of debt. The quote is pretty stark. Parasitic debt is a counterweight to your road trip. It's a bloodsucker that steals free time, energy, freedom, and health. Avoid it.
Marketing and branding are also positioned as essential, not optional extras.
Yeah, you can't just build it and expect them to come. Branding is what lifts your business above being just a commodity. Having a clear, unique selling proposition, a USP, that sets you apart is vital.
Like that no-nonsense carpet cleaner example.
Right, something memorable that instantly communicates your value. The source lists ways to cut through the noise, polarize a bit, stir emotions, maybe be a little edgy, encourage people to interact, just be different.
Any specific examples come to mind?
Think about Apple's whole vibe, or Domino's original 30 minutes, or its free promise, the Energizer Bunny just going and going, or all those quirky Geico ads. They all found ways to stand out and stick in people's minds.
And fanatical customer service, SUS.
SUS, service that ultimately creates superfans.
The author makes a really strong, maybe counterintuitive argument here. Exceptional service can often make up for flaws in the business or product.
Wait, really? Great service can cover for a so-so product.
That's the claim. But the reverse isn't true, according to this view. A fantastic product or amazing features can be completely undermined by terrible customer service.
That hotel comparison illustrates it. Right. The super fancy Venetian versus the slightly older Rio. The amazing features of the Venetian didn't matter because the service experience was bad. But the Rio, while maybe less impressive physically, won loyalty through great service.
So turning customers into actual fans makes them like your volunteer marketing team.
Exactly, and valuable word of mouth. And complaints. They're not problems to be avoided. They're viewed as free consulting opportunities to find out what's wrong and fix it. You have to listen.
Trust but verify. That sounds like a necessary, if slightly cynical, approach.
It's presented as pragmatic. Applies to hiring, partnerships, even relying on financial systems. The mantra is clear. Trust, but always verify.
Why the strong emphasis?
The source gets examples like hiring someone based on a resume full of lies or the Madoff scandal to show why you can't just take things at face value. Assume nothing is verified until you verify it. Bad partnerships or hires are highlighted as potentially fatal roadblocks.
What about competition? Ignore them. Obsess over them.
Neither, really. The advice is focus 95% of your energy on your business, making it better, serving your customers better, innovating.
And the other 5%.
Use that sliver of attention to watch competitors, but mainly to spot their weaknesses or find ways to differentiate yourself even more effectively. The quote sums it up. If you are too busy copying or watching your competition, you're not innovating. Focus on your own race. Just run your own race better.
And initially, it's all about intense focus on one thing, business monogamy.
Yes, exactly. Pour all your energy into getting that first Fastlane business off the ground, making it successful, and ideally generating passive income.
And diversification comes later. Business polygamy.
Right. Only after you've built that successful foundation and have resources and systems in place should you think about expanding or investing elsewhere. You have to avoid what he calls tickle syndrome.
Tickle syndrome. What is that?
It's like being a tech tick, constantly jumping from one shiny new idea or opportunity to the next, never sticking with anything long enough to actually see it through. That lack of sustained focus, especially early on, is deadly for building a real Fastlane business.
This source also mentions that acronym supercharger, kind of tying it all together.
Yeah, it's presented as a framework that connects many of these execution concepts, like education, automate, detaching time, replicate for scale, and generating cash flow, passive income. It's a way to think about implementing these principles systematically.
Okay, wow. That is definitely a deep dive into a fundamentally different way of thinking about building wealth. So if we bring it all together, the core message from this material seems pretty clear. Those conventional paths, the sidewalk, and especially the slow lane, they just have built-in limitations.
Right. Limitations on speed, limits on ultimate potential, and that fundamental, inescapable reliance on trading away your limited time.
And achieving true rapid wealth and the kind of freedom the author talks about, well, that requires consciously choosing and fully committing to this Fastlane roadmap instead.
Which means, at its heart, shifting your focus to solving real market needs, building scalable business systems designed to leverage time, not consume it, and making deliberate, often quite unconventional choices about how you spend your time and money.
And the author is emphatic that this whole shift, this whole journey, it starts inside your own head.
Absolutely. It's not primarily about your starting point or luck. It's about changing your core beliefs about money, time, and value, and then making choices that align with those new beliefs. He stresses that where you start doesn't matter nearly as much as the direction you choose and how you proceed from here.
There are a couple of quotes that really drive that home.
Yes, like, change starts with your beliefs because they dictate your future choices. And crucially, it doesn't matter where you start, but how you proceed. Your current situation doesn't lock you in. Your chosen path determines your destination.
So the big question this leaves us with, for you listening right now, what does all this mean?
You really have to take an honest look at the path you're on. Is it actually designed to lead you towards wealth, defined as freedom, impact, enjoying your best years now?
Or is it a path, maybe the comfortable default, that realistically leads towards financial mediocrity or just scraping by decades from now? Is it the sidewalk or the slow lane trap that these sources describe?
What's maybe one small choice, one tiny shift in belief or action you could make today? Something that nudges your trajectory, even just a little bit, towards the road you genuinely want to travel.
Because, as that final provocative thought from the source puts it, really summing up this entire philosophy, he who chooses the beginning of the road chooses the place it leads to. It is the means that determines the end.
It really forces that reflection. Your choices right now are actively shaping where you end up.
And that seems like the perfect place to end this deep dive. Plenty to think about regarding the implications of this material for your own financial journey. Thanks for listening to the Book Review Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a comment. See you next time.